Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. My name is Jim. I am joined by Brian and Jacob. And we got some big boys to talk to you about. We're going to be doing 8 offensive linemen and kind of just going through some of what their midseason scouting reports are. But before we jump into that, Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm riding high, the very unexpected Browns victory last night. So I'm enjoying recording this on a Friday. So enjoying my victory Friday. Just watching videos of Jameis Winston make snow angels on the field. So that was crazy.
Fantastic. And it looks like Brian is having some technical issues. So we will jump into player 1, which is offensive lineman Ozzy Trapilo, and ironically, I thought I put this in, but he is from Boston College, right?
Yes. Yep.
So I thought I already had that done. But anyway, so what can you tell us about Ozzy Trapilo?
This, Jim, we kind of talked about this a little bit some last week, but one thing that I love when it comes to offensive linemen, especially the guys that aren't like the top guys in the class. I love these offensive linemen that have played multiple positions. He has taken collegiate snaps at every position but center. I feel like he could play center. So like, if you're just like, oh, well, can he even, I think he could do all of those things. The size and length just absolutely sticks out right away. 6'7" to 314 pounds. But he looks, I wouldn't call him lean, but he holds 314 pounds really well. And I think that 6'7" frame has a lot to do with it. The long arms, I think his overall size profile, like I said, it's just, you could put him along the lines. You might say, oh, maybe he's a little light to be a tackle. I don't think he plays like a guy that's a little light to be anything, to be completely honest with you. I think he does such a phenomenal job anchoring, both as a run blocker and as a pass protector when he's out there on an island. I think his long arms really allow him to ride guys around the arc and past the quarterback. Really love the way he does it from that sort of thing. I think he's got really active feet. I think he's kind of an average athlete, and that's why you're looking at this guy as not being like a first or second rounder because some of the physical traits are there. But I think his feet move really well. He's got some good lateral movement. I don't love him climbing to the second level. I just don't think he's like an elite athlete when it comes to climbing the ladder. But if he gets his hands on you, he's going to drive you out of the way wherever you are, as a pass protector, as a run blocker. I think he's kind of one of those guys that you can tell he's really well coached in the fundamentals and the technical sides of things. He's just kind of an average overall athlete, but with a good power profile. But you add in the fact he can play every position on the line of scrimmage, it moves him up on the board for me.
Cool. And where do you have him on your board now?
I'd say I've got him right around the top 100. But I really value the versatility of offensive linemen. I mean, you take the Browns, for instance. Last night, Jermaine Ifedi was a right tackle, a career right guard and right tackle, was playing left tackle because they've just been decimated by injuries on the offensive line again. This is the kind of guy you bring in, and it's like, yeah, if your center goes down, you've got a guy. If your right tackle goes down, you've got a guy. I've seen that for 2 years in Cleveland with the injury issues that really make me value the versatility more. So I've got him around the top 100, somewhere in that range. He's probably a day 3 guy, but I think you draft him not with the idea of him starting, but you draft him knowing you have quality depth at all four or 5 offensive line positions.
Cool. Okay. So let's jump to the next player. Logan Parr from SMU.
Yeah, I like Logan Parr. So, where's my? Hold on, there we go. Let's try to find him. I think he projects as a left tackle or as a tackle at the next level. 6'4", 314 pounds. Transferred from Texas. He was in Texas last year before going down to SMU. I think he's a good athlete. I think immediately off the rip, it's kind of a quick twitched athlete. I think this is a guy that has really good lateral skills and ability to climb to the next level. He's got pretty good heavy hands. I think he does a good job keeping off defensive linemen's hands out of his chest and trying to control him. I'd like to see him a little bit. I like him much more as a pass protector, as a run blocker. I'd like him to see him a little bit add some more power, I think, overall as a run blocker so that he can get back into being a mover instead of just kind of a in the way kind of guy. But I think he's really intense. Like I love these intense physical linemen, and I think that's what Parr likes to do. I think he can understand the twists and the stunts and the things defense is throwing at him pretty well. I like him as a high floor pass protector. Like I said, just work on some leverage things, but he's a good athlete with solid technique. And I think if he can clean up some things and add some power, I think he can be a pretty good player.
And where is he on your board right now?
Probably a 5. I think I've got him somewhere around a 5. That sort of thing. And one thing with that all the time, you look at a guy going to a smaller school after transferring from a bigger school. I didn't see him play this way with Texas. And then he transfers. And whenever someone transfers down, that's never the end of the world by no stretch of the imagination. But he's a guy that I want to see the way he tests and see if that a plus level athleticism is going to push the freaky athlete level. And if it does, I'm moving him up.
Yep. Well, and in fairness, right, Texas has at least 3 offensive linemen that are probably going to be top 125 players. Right?
Yeah.
So if he sees himself on the depth chart behind those players, and you only like if you're in college, right? You have a 4-year sequence, and this is your one shot. You have to go somewhere where you're going to play, whether you can go lateral or down, and you really can't go up from Texas, right?
Yeah.
Right. So any move
away
away from Texas would be considered down. But you I don't fault a player for taking their one shot and making sure that they get film that scouts can see.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're not going to play at all. Like go out there and be a starter. Go out there and be a starter. Show that you can be that guy. Because there's plenty of small school guys that make it.
Yep. Okay, so thank you. Whoop. Okay, so the next one we're doing, my hand got a little bit quick there on the Google Slides, my apologies, but DJ Jones from UAB.
I'm trying to find notes. I don't think I was able to find anything on.
Okay. I believe he got added, I believe, because I saw a tweet that he was on, let's say, the Senior Bowl watch list. But I don't know that I've seen him high on anybody's board. But if he's on a watch list, he at least deserves a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'm trying to find anything on him. Let me see if I can pull up his. I don't know. Every once in a while, I get a couple of prospects that I can't find tape on, but when they're on, like you said, when they're on watch lists, it's very surprising to me that I can't find their tape. So I'm gonna try to see if I can do the pod on the pod, because that's
6'5", 310. Yeah. So I got him right here.
Okay, cool.
So he has transferred, and UAB is Alabama Birmingham, so that's where he is now. So 6'5", 310.
Some things are really showing up weird for me on this.
And he was originally at Murray State. But it does, like, from a draftable perspective, he is probably late day 3 to priority free agent, somewhere in there. I have him as a 3-star. But that's about right now. That's about all I have. So let's go to the next guy, which should be a little bit higher, and that's Fernando Carmona from Arkansas.
This is a guy that's starting to get some really fun buzz about him, and that's because of the motor. Like, if you're a guy that, when you look at offensive linemen and you want to watch a guy finish a block and play through a whistle and just drive a guy into the ground, that's what Carmona is going to do. 6'5", 315 pounds. Another guy that's versatile. We've seen him play multiple positions along the offensive line. Again, I value that. Maybe I overvalue that because of what I've seen in Cleveland the recent years. He wants to do one thing and one thing only, and that's hit you in the mouth. Like, he is a physical, let me hit you in the mouth. I don't love kind of like the lateral agility. I'm concerned about that. That may lead him to be more of an inside player as a result. But I don't love the lateral versatility and athleticism. I think he's kind of an overall average athlete, but he's got that mean temperament and high motor that you say, okay, I can work with this. Like, I can find anybody that's going to show up and try. Can I find somebody that's willing to bust their butt out there on the field and just do absolutely whatever he has to do to try to win? That's Carmona. I think some of the body control, he can get off balance and overextend sometimes when he's in the open field, trying to, I think, sometimes supplements his lack of elite level athleticism, and he gets just like a little, outside of his frame, he gets a little over, and sometimes his pad level is a little inconsistent. But if he can find to his hand usage, he shows flashes of just phenomenal leverage and hand usage and getting underneath the pads. It's just not consistent yet. So with him, I think he has the things that you can't teach someone to have a physical temperament and a high motor. And I think he's got enough size, 6'5", 315, work on those hands, draft him somewhere in the 5th or 6th round, maybe even the 4th round, draft him somewhere around there on day 3, and then get him in there and just work on some of the technical side of things, because he's going to bring the mindset that you need him to bring to be a successful offensive lineman. Like I said, average athlete, but I can work with a average athlete that's mean, physical, and works his tail off. And I think that's what you get in Carmona.
Yeah, and we covered a few offensive linemen on last night's podcast. And one thing I'd like to point out about interior offensive line, you definitely need players that have the mass to withstand physical rush. And I say there's a regular season offensive lineman and there's a playoff offensive lineman. And here's the analogy I used last night. I'm going to use it again here with Carmona. You need good players on the inside. So last year, Buffalo, Kansas City in the playoffs, and I am a diehard Bills fan for anybody that doesn't know. And we had an incomplete pass to Stephon Diggs downfield. Everybody hears Stephon Diggs drop the ball, right? He was definitely open. Okay. Now, why was the ball incomplete? Well, the ball was thrown just a little bit too early. And that was because Chris Jones had pushed the offensive lineman right back into Josh Allen's lap. He couldn't step up into the throw. So what does Buffalo do? Well, Mitch Morse was let go in the offseason. He was a lighter, less physical offensive lineman. And they've since replaced 2 of their starting offensive linemen this year with bigger players, right? So you want the bigger physical players for what I say is playoff football for when you're playing Chris Jones. You might be able to get away with some of the less physical offensive linemen during the regular season, but you can't avoid Chris Jones in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. So I definitely like Carmona. I definitely like him early day 3. That would be round 5 or earlier. If somebody's trying to figure out what is early day 3 versus late day 3, it's round 4 and 5 versus rounds 5 and 6. So when we say early day 3, we're saying round 5 or better.
We're saying around 1 or 2 p.m. That's where they get picked, because the day 3 starts at.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to add Brian in. There was a little bit of static.
That's all right.
Yep.
These computers loved when these computers work. They're great.
Okay, so here was another small school guy. Did you have anything on Jackson Slater?
You know what? I'm still working on finding some film. I've really for a lot of these younger or these smaller school guys, I'm kind of going off some people that have access to a little bit more film than me. So I haven't got to watch them a ton. I've seen some highlights and things. I'm going to say these FCS, these non-Division I football offensive linemen are good. Like, and Jackson Slater's not the only one, but there's a lot of these guys that are really good at this level. 6'3", 313 pounds. He is a really well physically put together player. He's a good athlete. I'm not going to put him in like freaky level athlete, but he's a good athlete. He has a ton of experience and he likes to play physical football. He's played a couple of different positions for Sacramento State, who, by the way, are the Hornets. And I wish more teams would use the Hornets as a logo because I really like that. But yeah, no, he's a physical guy, has really nice movement skills, has played multiple different positions, and has a ton of experience. I talk about this especially with quarterbacks. I love guys that have played a lot of football. When you're getting into the day 3 and you're trying to sort between guys with traits and guys with maybe low ceilings, high floors. Like if I'm in the 6th, 7th round and I've got a guy that's played 50 games at the collegiate level, I like that a lot. And you mix versatility and experience with a solid athlete, likes to play physical, kind of get him to clean up some of the hand techniques and some of the footwork. But from what little bit I've seen and read on him, I think he's one of those 6th or 7th round guys that you maybe draft and then you get him into training camp and you're like, oh, we should have taken this guy earlier.
Yep. So I will definitely second the traits. So with Jackson Slater, you're getting traits. He's definitely the type of, you would say, late day 3 or priority free agent. So just to give maybe the audience some context, so 53 players make an NFL roster. 90 have to go to training camp. He's going to be one of the 90 you want to bring to camp. And pretty much whatever you can do from June until August is pretty much how you're going to make the team, meaning they're looking for, did you improve over 3 months? Because that shows that you're coachable. And even if you ride on the practice squad, like I don't know how many offensive linemen are on Cleveland's practice squad. Buffalo has at least 2 and usually 3 offensive linemen on the practice squad.
I think we've got 3, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all you need to be able to do is last a year or last a season, I should say, because it's then that first off season between year 1 and 2 where you get NFL strength and conditioning. So we are going to go to the next player, Wyatt Milum from West Virginia.
This is the one I've been waiting for here. This is the one that gets you excited. Every year you make a list of your guys, and I've started to work on my guys for this class, and Milum's there. Recently, there was a change. PFF recently updated their big board and added a ton of players to the mock draft simulator. They moved Wyatt Milum all the way up to 18th overall on their board. He's their 18th overall prospect. This dude has not allowed a quarterback sack since 2021. That was the last time someone went up against Wyatt Milum and got a sack of the quarterback. He's got 5 pressures this year. He had 9 pressures last year. And as good as he has been better this year. PFF's got him at a 90.9 overall grade. And it's pretty much across the board where he's at. Some people don't like the length. Some people are going to look at it and say he's got sub 33-inch arms, and they're going to say, I don't think he can play tackle. I watched this guy play, and he's absolutely a tackle to me. And if you go out there, and my friend Casey Kinnaman that does the Barking Browns podcast with me, he always says, let a guy fail outside end. So you put Wyatt Milum out there and you let him play tackle. If he can't play tackle, you bust him in the guard, and he'll be a dang good guard for a long time with you. Excellent play demeanor. Excellent. Knows exactly what he wants to do. Calm, cool, collected, physical, smart. Really love his footwork. Just love what he does with his feet. His feet are in the right place at the right time, doing what they're supposed to do. Gets a little aggressive. He gets a little over aggressive at times. He can kind of whiff on some of those things. But you're looking at a dude that has been the guy for, I think this is, in 2021, I think he was their full-time starter too. So you're a ton of experience at left tackle, especially these last 3 seasons. It's just a seasoned, refined player. Not a crazy athlete, plays with a high, but still a good athlete. He's going to move all over the place. And his footwork makes up for that. Sometimes gets a little over aggressive, sometimes needs to work on his pad level, but at 6'6", you sometimes are going to play a little high because he's a big, long player. I just like Wyatt Milum a ton. Just if you're wanting a dude that's just going to go out there and he's a one bad son of a gun. That's the way I look at it. Like, he wants to go out there, drive you into the ground. You're not getting past him to his quarterback. Like, I think you take Wyatt Milum in the first round. If he slips into the second round, you should be dancing for joy. And I think he can play left tackle for you for the next 10 years. I just think he's so refined. He moves. His footwork is so great. Like I said, not a crazy athlete, but he's an above average athlete. Like I just think he's really well-rounded. He gets lost that he plays for West Virginia. If he played for, Texas, for example, I think he'd be offensive tackle 1. But I really think he makes the play for that.
Cool. And this is the second time that we've covered Milum on the channel. So if you haven't seen the episode where Jared and Dean covered Milum, you can listen to Jared and Dean and then listen to Jacob and ask yourself, did they say the same thing? So here's some similarities for what I heard. Fail outside in. So there's going to be a lot of people to project him as a guard. I know Kyle Krabs from 33rd Team says he's not a tackle, he's a guard, right? So, and generally that assessment is based upon arm length, I think is primarily the reason that somebody would make an assessment like that. So what we definitely have here is a good lineman. And like Dane Brugler had Milum in his top 50, and Brugler had him as an interior offensive lineman as well, right? So what you're drafting, what you have to ask yourself is, when you draft him, do you need a tackle or do you need an offensive lineman?
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest question that a team will have. Because here's an example I'll use. The New England Patriots. Yes.
Yep.
Right. They need help at probably 4 of their 5 offensive line spots. So the Patriots would have a spot for them, depending upon who they would draft, to put next to them, whether it's to the inside of them or to the outside of them, right? So that would be something. But if your team only needs a guard, are you going to look at Milum or possibly a couple of the other guys that we're about to cover right after him on this podcast? If you need a tackle, but you have an all-pro guard, and I can't think of a team that's in that category, but maybe he's not the guy because you're not sure if he can play tackle and you already have a guard that's got a big contract. So I think those are some of the things that your team should consider for, is Milum 18th on your board or is he 38th on your board?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's pretty much what it comes down to. But I think what I heard from you, Jacob, was really similar to what I heard Jared and Dean do on their offensive line episode. And Jared and Dean, we're recording this on a Friday morning, and this will air probably about an hour after we record it. Jared and Dean would have been Wednesday, which would have been, I'm looking at my calendar, November 20th. So it's the November 20th episode. Jared and Dean covered Milum as well. So, and it's the same graphic. So if you're trying to scroll to the spot of the podcast just to hear that segment, it's the same graphic. So that may help you find it.
I do want to say that the phrase that gets thrown around with him a lot is road grader.
Yep.
He wants to.
And he's at the Senior Bowl, isn't he?
Yeah. I'm excited.
So two of the players we covered, because Trapilo, who we covered first, is also at the Senior Bowl.
Let me see if I can get my Senior Bowl invites, because it's been filling up pretty quickly at the Senior Bowl. There's the guy we're about to talk about, Chase Lundt, has accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl. Trapilo is accepted it. He'll be there. I think that might be so far. Yeah, I think that's so far the only one we've talked about today. And Milum, yeah.
Yep. So we definitely, this is almost the Senior Bowl offensive line preview if we've got 3. So, yeah. Okay, so what can you tell us about Chase Lundt from Connecticut?
Chase Lundt's a guy I've been watching for a while. I wrote an article in the middle of October over at the Orange and Brown Report about some group of 5 guys to watch for the Browns, and just some guys that are kind of under the radar. And Lundt was one of those guys, 6'8", 305 pounds. That's what's really interesting. Just barely over 300 pounds at that size. He seems a little bit lean, but it doesn't mean I think his frame would support more size and add power and strength. I think you look at him and you go, that's a guy that could realistically play at 320 and be even better, because I really love him as a run blocker. He's got so much power in his in his legs and his lower half, and he plays with really good leverage. If he had 15 pounds of muscle on top of what he does already, and he just moves guys out of the way. That's what he's going to do. Great motor. These guys, and a lot of the elite run blockers in really any draft class, you're going to see a lot of motors, guys that just want to play. Those guys, I always talk about Wyatt Teller just because it's relevant to the Browns. He's got that mean streak in there. He's got that I want to block 3 guys on one play so I can get a touchdown in the rain kind of mean streak. Plays with for 6'8", his pad level is great. It's very easy for a guy of that size to go straight up as soon as he gets off the line of scrimmage, and Lundt just doesn't do that. He just has great bend in his lower half. I think he's a little inconsistent as a pass protector. That is where you want to go. Some shades of DeJuan Jones in a sense, where some of those speed guys can get around him if they get off the line of scrimmage just because of his size. I think he's got good athleticism. He just to get off the line and respond to it. He's just inconsistent. He's just really inconsistent when it comes to getting in and out of his pass sets quick enough. And he just needs to clean up some of the handwork. If he can clean up some of that as a pass protector, I don't think he's a guy that would be ready to start right away. I just don't think his game's refined enough to be able to start right away. But if you stash a guy like this, he adds a little bit of size and power. Like, I think his floor as a run blocker is good. I think it's a very good floor for the run blocker, just wildly inconsistent as a pass protector. As good as he is at playing with leverage and using his hands as a run blocker, he's just kind of inconsistent with that stuff as a pass protector. But I've had my eye on him for a little over a month. This is definitely a guy I want to see him in person at the Senior Bowl and see what he looks like against, bigger competition.
Cool. And where do you have him graded right now?
Probably about 5th, 6th round, somewhere in there. I like the physical traits, but just the refinement's not quite there. And he's doing a lot of this against lesser competition. If he goes out and looks, the guy I see on tape, if he's that guy at the Senior Bowl, I really want to he's got riser. He could be one of those risers when you get into once the NFL season's over and people really start looking at it, because they're going to look at a really nice athlete with you can't teach 6'8" in that length and reach. You just can't. If he can refine, the technical sides of things, he could really make a difference.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And the last player that we were going to cover, Joshua Gray from Oregon State.
I love their uniforms, by the way. I know it's probably an unpopular opinion with the orange, but I do enjoy it. 6'4", 310, kind of a prototypical build for what we're seeing a lot in college right now. This is the athlete. If you're looking for a probably day 3 guy that you really want to bet on athleticism, that's Joshua Gray. I think he's an exceptional athlete. Really quick footwork, lateral agility, climbs to the second level pretty well. Another guy that's going to give you everything he's got motor wise. That's what I love. A lot of these guys that I have day 3 that we've talked about today specifically, I love their motors, man. Like, if you want to impress a coach and a draft scout, work your tail off. Like, if I'm like saying here, I'm like this guy just needs to add some strength, and he needs to add refine his game and get coached up, which Joshua Gray and Chase Lundt, the last 2 guys we've talked about, I put them in that bucket. I need this guy to come in and take coaching, and based on his motor and work ethic and what people have said about him, what I see on tape, he's going to take to coaching. Like, he seems like that. Those high motor guys, they want to work their tail off. I think pretty good football IQ. I think he's a guy that understands what's happening in front of him, how to react to those sorts of things. I think the 6'4", he's borderline. The 310, he's a very lean, if you're talking about him a tackle. And I think he's got, it looks, I don't have an official measurement, but kind of shorter arms. I think he has to kick inside to guard as a result for some of the measurements and overall size. Inconsistent pad level and inconsistent with his hand technique as a pass protector. But he's a guy that it's the 4th round. He reminds me, and now this hasn't really worked out for Cleveland, but he reminds me of James Hudson when the Browns drafted him out of Cincinnati. This was a guy, now Gray's got more experience at position, but James Hudson was a guy that played defensive tackle at Michigan, switched to tackle at UC, had the 2020 season, be shortened, comes into the Cleveland as a guy with a lot of really cool physical traits that can be molded into clay. That's what Joshua Gray is to me. Just not a refined player on the technical side of things, adds a little bit of size. If he kicks in the guard and goes to like 325 and figures out what to do with his hands a little bit more consistently, he's got such great movement skills that I think, a little bit of size, power, and refinement as a technical guy, and he could be one of those scary guards when you're pulling him, because he's gonna, and the corner's gonna be like, oh god, here he comes, because I think he's got those movement skills where he's not gonna just be out there whiffing in the open field. I just think he can do those things. He gets his hands on you, but he needs some work. But he's definitely a day 3, probably a 5th or 6th rounder that I would love to just take a lottery ticket flyer on him and just see what I can do with it.
Fantastic. So that was the 8th and final player that we were going to cover. So before we close out the recording, any parting words?
Just be nice to everybody and don't be dumb in the snow. Where we're
I like that. Yes. So if anybody doesn't know, so while Jacob and I, we both live in Ohio, we live about 150 miles apart. So definitely be nice to the other drivers in the snow, please, and thank you.
Yes.
Good parting words. So thank you, everybody, for watching the Mrs. Are Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. Give us a follow on X. He's at Roach IZM13. I am at NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. Please like on YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube. We have content on the draft coming to you every day. And pretty much for the next 4 weeks, you're going to be getting scouting reports in the top 175 players in the big board. So it doesn't matter what night, there's content. A little bit later on tonight, you're going to be seeing this podcast aired about noon on Friday. And we've got another one coming to you later on Friday that's wide receiver corner. And then we've got running backs and linebackers on Monday. And then we have some tight ends and safeties on Tuesday. And then Wednesday and Thursday, both sides of the line. And then we close out Fridays with wide receivers and DBs. So thank you, everybody. You are appreciated. Remember, every day can be your draft day if you have the right attitude. Thank you very much.